Look out across the East River today, and you might see the sleek towers and manicured lawns of Roosevelt Island. It sits quietly between Manhattan and Queens, a picture of modern life. But look closer, near the southern tip, and you'll see the scars of another time. A crumbling, medieval-like apparition, an ancient castle lost to time. This is the Renwick Ruin, and it is here that the modern island gives way to the ghosts of Blackwell's Island. The history of this sliver of land is macabre. For nearly a century, from 1839 until 1936, this was not a place of refuge, but a destination for the lost, the afflicted, and the condemned. They called it Damnation Island. It was meant to be an isolation ground, a solution for New York City's most desperate problem. This former pastoral escape was transformed into a veritable city of asylums, a host of infamous institutions. Here stood the prisons. Here stood the almshouses for the destitute and the elderly. Here stood the hospitals, and perhaps most terrifyingly, the New York City Lunatic Asylum, which opened its doors in 1839. If you were poor, sick, mad, or criminal in 19th century New York, you were sent here. The island embodied every outdated, backward idea about human physical and mental health. And worse, vast political corruption ensured that the patients and inmates brought here to heal would only suffer. The history is filled with naked ugliness and horror. Take the Renwick Ruin itself. Designed by acclaimed architect James Renwick Jr., the man who also designed St. Patrick's Cathedral, this structure was opened in 1856 as the Smallpox Hospital. It was a Gothic revival nightmare, a beautiful facade for unimaginable sickness and death. Even in its advanced state of dilapidation today, it captivates visitors. It stands between the shining new additions of Cornell Tech and FDR Four Freedoms Park, refusing to let the city forget what it once was. Today, the ruin is guarded, not by wardens, but by geese and cats. But the darkness runs deeper than stone. This island collected the doomed. Its grand story includes a hideous execution that took place as early as 1829. The suffering was so entrenched that muckrakers and reformers, including figures like Charles Dickens and Nellie Bly, had to descend upon this isolated location to expose the terrible conditions. Their work began a reform movement for compassionate care, but not before countless lives were broken within these walls. The island's secrets, its hidden misery, seeped into the land itself. Generations later, the macabre atmosphere lingered. Even after the institutions were officially defunct, the buildings held their history. I want you to imagine the sheer audacity of youth, exploring the forbidden corners of Damnation Island in the late night. One person recalled growing up here between 1979 and 1989, calling it a privilege to be part of such great history. History they were actively exploring as a rebel youth in abandoned structures. Another person, revisiting those teenage nights, described descending into the abandoned buildings. They went to the morgue. They went to the morgue in the basement, and they would pull the body slabs out of the wall. The sheer weight of that history, the forgotten poor, the suffering sick, the criminal and the mad, all concentrated on this narrow landmass. It's why one person, looking across the river at the island in the mid-1950s, when it was overrun by nature seeking to reclaim it, felt an innate terror. They described the untouched island as seeming haunted and full of dark secrets. The Renwick Ruin remains today, not just as magnificent architecture, but as a visible symbol of that dark period. It is an enduring witness to the suffering, a crumbling silhouette against the modern skyline. When you see that ruin, standing between the new park and the new campus, understand that you are looking at the echo of Damnation Island. You are looking at the place where the poor, the sick, the mad, and the criminal suffered the naked ugliness and horror of New York City's forgotten history. Its stones carry the chill of the Smallpox Hospital, the despair of the almshouses, and the silence of the basement morgue. The ruins are not just relics, they are apparitions, whispering the terrible tale of Blackwell's Island. And they wait. If you enjoyed this tale, please subscribe so you don't miss our next descent into the dark.